Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rent Prep for Landlords. This is episode number 275, and this week we are going to be talking about assignment of benefits, what that is, and why you should know about it in the case of a hurricane such as Dorian if it were to affect your rental properties, and why you should never sign an assignment of benefits. We're also going to be talking about a recent news story coming out of Mountain View, so the San Francisco area, of a landlord mastermind who, we're using that term mastermind loosely, who created a home invasion to evict tenants. We're going to get back to that right after this.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Welcome to the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast. And now your hosts, Stephen White and Eric Worrell.
All right, first we will get to that juicy story out of San Francisco. The title of this is Mountain View Landlord Masterminded Home Invasion to Evict Tenants, police say. So this is by Maria Medina, or Medina. Hopefully I'm saying that right. We'll play a little bit of the audio clip for you here, and this is coming courtesy of KBCW. So let's take a listen.
Ken Bassita, we begin with that elaborate scheme that police say was masterminded by a landlord to force her tenants to move out.
Hi, Beats Maria Medina is in Mountain View for us with how it ended with 5 people in handcuffs.
The family of 4, including 2 children, were inside the rental home when the suspects showed up, ultimately running out a back door as the suspects tried to force their way in. And one man watched it all unfold across the street.
You take it to the courts. That's ridiculous.
Mountain View police say Renu Saini is the mastermind behind a home invasion at her own property.
Pounding on the door or shouting, I heard, they were yelling.
Dave Murphy lives across the street and says he watched as the suspects tried to break in last night just after 8.
First I yelled at him, say, hey, knock it off.
They were kicking on a metallic gate to get to the front door.
But Chris Banta says Mountain View police surrounded the rental, finding Saini and the other suspects in the front yard.
That whole block was packed with cops.
Police say Saini became frustrated with her tenants who were late on their rent. And according to investigators, her idea of an eviction involved calling 4 of her friends, including this man, Stephen Carling of San Jose. Police say when the group of suspects arrived at the rental, the family of 4 refused to leave. So one of the suspects turned off the power before Carling is accused of using a knife to try and pry open the front door.
He's insane.
The family escaped through a back door as officers arrived, arresting all 5 suspects, including the landlord, who now has a temporary new home herself, a jail cell. You weren't expecting this, though.
Oh, no, not at all. This is crazy.
And Saini and Carling are expected in court on Thursday. Both of them refused a request for a jailhouse interview. On the Night Beat, I'm Maria Medina.
Yeah, pretty crazy story. Again, another example of why you do not want to do what's called a self-help eviction. So that's when you take things into your own hands and you think, you know what, I'm going to get this tenant out of here. Clearly, this lady's a little bit absurd, a little over the edge, a little, maybe crazy in that she got 4 friends to try and do a home invasion to kick out her tenants. And if you do click on the link that I'll provide in the show notes here to sanfrancisco.cbslocal.com, you will see the mugshots. They're pretty terrifying. They look like they're right out of a movie scene. Some of these individuals that she rounded up to get these tenants out. So many things, like they mentioned too, the cutting off the power to the unit and then breaking down the doors. I mean, this is obviously a very extreme example of a self-help eviction, but anything like that, again, always a good reminder to look at the stupidity of others and realize, you know what, obviously all of us know you should never do something like this where you're actually creating a criminal act and breaking into their house and trying to invade it. But things like cutting off their power, changing the locks on the unit, or putting some sort of stop on their utilities, whether it be water, power, gas, electric, whatever. You never want to do that. You want to follow the proper process. I'll link to our guide on evicting a tenant properly. You guys can check that out. But unfortunately, these news stories do creep up and they do pop up, and it's sad to hear, but they should get the publicity that they get because it's ridiculous. So with that aside, I do want to take some time here today to talk about assignment of benefits. So we've talked about this before on the podcast. We had Kim Hampton and Scott Hampton on of Hampton and Hampton out of Florida. So if you listen to that podcast, it's number 182 on filing insurance claims on rentals. We got into this because they were actually talking about hurricanes that came up before in the past, and they have over 1,000 units that they manage in Central Florida. So this is certainly something that they have to deal with. But there were some really good show notes on that episode. And one of the things that they had talked about was the idea of assignment of benefits. So what is assignment of benefits? Well, according to Citizens Property Insurance Corporation of Florida, an assignment of benefits, AOB, is a contract between you and a third party, typically a contractor, roofer, or water mitigation company, giving them the right to deal directly with citizens and receive payment for your claim. So you sign an AOB, you give up your right to manage your claim and ensure it is resolved to your complete satisfaction. In 2019, the Florida legislature passed common sense reforms aimed at bringing balance to the AOB process. As a result of these reforms, AOB vendors must adhere to certain legal requirements to receive payment for your claim. In addition, policyholders have been given the right to cancel an assignment agreement under certain circumstances and take back control of their claim. I thought this was really worth bringing up and highlighting right now as Hurricane Dorian is coming up the coastline. Hopefully, by the time this podcast airs on Thursday, it is going to be far enough off the coast that there's not going to be substantial damage. I know that there has been absolute tragedy in the Bahamas, and we're still unsure of what's going to happen in the States. But as far as the AOB reform, if you do end up signing one of these, it does seem like you do have more on your side to be able to get out of it. And what I'll do here is I will let Scott Hampton explain that. I'm going to play a little bit of a clip from our episode 182 where Scott's explaining what an AOB is and why you should avoid these at all costs. And again, that episode 182 is a great one to listen to if you're worried about filing insurance claims here coming up due to the hurricane damage. So I'm going to bring it over to a previous episode, number 182, and we're going to listen to Scott explain this for us. So, Scott, one of the another bullet point here. I was so thankful you put these together for us. But you talked about not signing any kind of assignment of benefits or an AOB contract. Can you explain that a little bit more for our listeners?
Yeah, we went ahead and put that in there, and we also put a link. It's to when you hear Citizens, that is a state-run insurance pool here in Florida, because a lot of insurance companies here in Florida left because they feel it was kind of high risk. So the state runs one called Citizens. Wow. And we put the website in there and the link to the AOB. And AOB is an assignment of benefits. And what happens is you'll have contractors come into the areas where there may be, and again, you had this in California, fires. In Houston, you had floods. And here we had a hurricane. And I hate to say that, but this year was a tough year for everybody. Yeah. And they will come into an area and they'll have you thing called an assignment of benefit. And what that does is basically they'll say, hey, I can get your house fixed for the deductible, $1,000 or something, and you won't cost you anything else. Sign this. That allows them now to basically act as you, go to your insurance company and file a claim, and they, as the roofing contractor, will now say, I'm putting a roof on for X dollars. They get the money to put the roof on and basically become you, and it's not fraud, but it's right at
kind of.
Yeah. Reminds me of like car dealerships, kind of similar, right? I mean, you hear about a lot of car dealerships doing the same thing when they're trying to replace something, and they have full control to go back to the insurance company and say, oh yeah, and we're also going to need to replace the radiator or this and that. Right. So yeah, you're putting it in the hands of people whose income and livelihood depends on it as well. So,
well, and going back, and you're going to put that website, I'm sure, on there too. That affects everyone's insurance rate. The insurance companies, and believe me, they're going to give them an inflated price on that roof. And it's not going to be competitive where we're getting 2 or 3 bids. Mm-hmm. And then basically that insurance company is going to pass those costs along to you. They're just going to get a higher rate.
Now, if somebody was listening and they already have signed an assignment of benefits, do you think it's kind of too late for them and they're kind of stuck with that contractor they're working with? Or
well, we just did one of these, actually. You can go back. And again, I don't know what each one said. The one that one of our clients signed, we were able to actually get to write a letter. We used our attorney, write a letter to them saying he wanted to cancel it. Mm-hmm. So what they did, though, they came back and said, look, we put a tarp up there. You need to pay us for the tarp.
Here's $30.
Yeah. So other than that, he was able to cancel it. They usually, and again, depending on what each one says, and I'm not an attorney, but you need to get your attorney to look at it. Don't sign it first. And they'll tell you not to sign it. Your attorney will tell you not to sign it. Is that basically you are usually allowed to go back and cancel it. They'll fight you on it too, so be ready for a battle.
Well, that just about does it for today's episode. Again, if you want to check out episode 182 on filing insurance claims, I also posted that video of that conversation to the Facebook group and trying to tag some any Florida landlords out there. And that Facebook group is a great resource for things just like this. When things pop up like a hurricane threat, this is a great opportunity for people to share knowledge, share information, and be prepared for a situation like that. So if you're not part of the Rent Prep for Landlords Facebook group yet, be sure to head over there and request to join the group. And if you guys got any questions, you can always ask them in the group, or you can email us here at Rent Prep. We're always here to answer your guys' questions. So until next week, guys, have a great week and take care.